I wanted to just make sure that we got those points out clearly, because I know what some of you are going to say, that Jim was unnecessarily hard on Candace, on the family. And Jim, I'm going to go ahead and bring you in. And you know, maybe that's true, because we do need to focus on Dylan. But you know, really, Melody's saying it's not important. Melody, I understand what you're saying, but it is important when we as a channel get multiple emails and comments all day, every day, and especially with Tyler's channel being a faith-based channel. So that is why I wanted to address those things and make sure that it was clear, the information that I found simply by doing some perfunctory searches. And welcome, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, listen, I've been backstage in the holding tank, as they say. Kim, let me ask you a few questions. Let me monopolize this here for a real quick. Is Jim Terry a convicted felon in the state of Florida based on your research?
No. No.
Does Jim Terry have the necessary license, being a business license, registered in the state of Mississippi to practice as a private investigator in Mississippi, Idaho, South Dakota, Wyoming, Alaska, Colorado? Does he have the proper license?
Yes. Yes, in the 6 states that do not require licensing, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, Kim, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start sending you around to all these channels, and you could talk to all these YouTubers, and I might even pay. I mean, you ought to be my lawyer. I had a very good lawyer in the state of Florida, and we're going to talk about lawyers on this show because, boy, do I have a doozy of something that just happened in Idaho. You aren't going to believe the phone call I just got from the state bar in Idaho. It's amazing. We'll get to that in a second, but thank you for having me on the program. I see we got our fella out there. You know, I don't want to be disrespectful. I'm pretty direct, and I see Michael's out there. But guys, you know, you've made a lot of good points on this program, Kim, the people in the chat. Guys, we're what? How many days are in on this are we? 40 days?
Mm-hmm.
40 days. Let's say 40 days. Mm-hmm. They don't have anything. That we're talking about a gate. We're talking about keys. We're talking. Imagine a boy, okay? And I look at Dylan Rounds based on what he wanted to do with farming. Is the same thing I wanted to do with football. My goal was to go to college on a full scholarship and play college football. That's all I wanted to do. Dylan's grades were probably better than mine. I had terrible grades. I made a 19 on the ACT. I think I graduated high school from Youngstown Cardinal Mooney with a 2.3 GPA. My grades were not great, but I knew I had to go to college in order to play college football and then hopefully get a career in the Arena Football League. So I knew what my goal was, and my parents helped me do all that. They helped me go to football camps. They helped, and all I talked about was football, college football, and arena football the entire time growing up. Just like Dylan Rounds talked about tractors and all these different things. I get all that. I just did a quick search while I was watching. And I says, what if I wanted to buy a farm that would grow the same kind of stuff Dylan Rounds grow in Idaho Falls? Let's say that my father wanted to send me to play college football, and he was looking like they were for farms. Right now, you can get a farm in Idaho Falls with 50 acres for next to nothing. You could get a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house on 20 acres. Nothing said that this kid had to have 600 acres on a farm. You can get beautiful farms in Idaho. We got a man that comes on here, and he shows us a video where people have to go to some sort of a hole in the desert and get fresh water from a pipe. We're in, I mean, look what year we're in. Who the hell would want to live in an area where you got to drive to go get water from a hole in the pipe? But let's just say you're going to be a farmer, Kim. Okay, and I'm making a point here. Let's say you're going to be a farmer, and I'm not a farmer, but I'm going to guess that probably sunlight and water are going to be pretty important to a farm. So you get a farm for a kid out in the desert, in the middle of nowhere, right? Surrounded by people with a quick record search that are not the most upstanding citizens, right? And then you put this kid out there because it was his dream. I think there's a lot of better places you could have put him. My question is why there? But my question to him is, after 40 days, we're looking at a gate and a pipe and maybe a trail. Let me tell you how these people did this. They used 4-wheelers. There are 2 4-wheelers that were reported stolen in that area by a woman. And from what everybody in that area knows, forget boots on the ground or drones, those 2 4-wheelers are in police custody. So are probably 3 of the 4 people that are involved in this. They're waiting to put their cell phones together because those criminals that did something to this kid, their cell phones are going to match up. I'm not worried about a grain shed. I'm not worried about drones. I'm worried about the 3 people that are in prison or in jail at this time. Thursday's going to be pretty interesting, Kim, because Thursday they're going to say whether or not they extradite Chase Venstra to another state. If they extradite him, they're done with him. If they keep him in the state, there's your main suspect. So basically, you put this kid in a meat grinder. How could you think something bad wouldn't happen? There's people that send their kids to Ohio State University on secure campuses and stuff bad happens. Imagine putting that little, and by the way, the kid was tiny. I don't know what Michael's saying. That kid was, there's pictures of him next to his mom. He was 5'8", probably 130 pounds. 4 guys could get rid of him pretty quick on a 4-wheeler. That's not a big man. I'm 6'3", 220, and in my industry, I'm tiny. So I'm telling you that there's a lot going on here, and if all they've got is a gate and the same boots that were in the desert 40 days ago, they have nothing. Absolutely nothing. And by the way, the father left yesterday. He's gone. He went home. Football season's going to start. High school is going to start. Education is going to start. Band is going to start. And what's going to happen is this story is going to go away. It's getting swallowed. We are 3 or 4 days away from another big story coming through that area, and nobody will be looking at this. So hopefully somebody finds something quick, or one of these morons flips on each other to let people know what really happened to this kid. Because I can't imagine that this case is going to hinge on a couple of boots in the desert that they've known about for 40 days or a gate with keys. It's not going to happen that way.
Well, one of the things I want to read Tyler's super chat here. For the record, this channel is only about finding Dylan. All the drama is not welcome here. Right. That's the point, is that, you know, Jim is not going to talk about Candace tonight. Right, Jim? Right.
Not unless you bring her up. Is she still out there searching? Is she still out there searching?
I don't know. I don't know. So we're not going to talk about Candace. We're not going to talk about that. All we were going to do is we're going to refocus on Dylan. And so some of the stuff Jim is saying, all the stuff Jim is saying is important. So Jim, you wanted to ask Michael some questions. What did you want to ask Michael?
Michael, have the Wadsworths been out there searching for this kid? They were very close to him, despite what anybody believes the relationship might have been. Do you know the Wadsworths?
No, I don't know them. Yeah, I talked to you a couple of times before. I don't know anybody from Monticello. So, yeah, I don't know them, just what I've seen on the interviews. And I thought his interview was interesting about the gate. So that's why I drove out, took pictures. But it doesn't look like a gate to me. It looks like a fence.
Hey, Mike, let me ask you this. Do you know anything about a woman in that area that had 2 4-wheelers stolen from her property that are now under police custody? The 4-wheelers and ATV?
When were they stolen? 2 years ago?
No, probably within the last couple of months, right before this kid went missing. 2 green 4-wheelers.
No, I don't know anything about that, but I know one of my neighbors had a Polaris and a couple of 4-wheelers stolen 2 years ago when a lot of people got broke into out here.
Is it a woman?
A woman and a man, her and her husband.
We hear all these stories. You had a story earlier, Mike, about being broken into, your neighbors getting broken into. I mean, Kurt Wadsworth even went on a radio show and says, there's no militia. We weren't a vigilante group. We were a neighborhood watch. We went around and policed from all the tweakers to make sure our stuff. Well, guys, that is a vigilante gang. That is a small militia. You don't have to have uniforms and be marching. You heard any stories, Mike, out there? And I'm talking about Montello. I'm not talking about 30 miles away, of maybe people having to police their own land because of these tweakers and people out there robbing them. Sounds like everybody you've mentioned's been burglarized.
Well, just from what I've heard on the videos that's in Monticello, we have kind of started a neighborhood watch here since this has all happened. I have numbers of my neighbors, and if anybody sees something suspicious at night, we kind of call each other or call the sheriffs. But yeah, like the night that I saw all those lights up on Bald Eagle Mountain, you know, I called the sheriff. They said they were doing a search, but if they wouldn't have said that, I would have called my neighbors and probably would have headed up there, see what was going on, you know, but
Mike,
that's
what
just
made you,
recent.
Mike, where are you from? Where did you live before this area, if you don't mind me